In this clip, we'll graph the conic section called the parabola in its most elementary form. The first thing we'll do is we'll create a new document. So we'll go to option 1, new document. We'll add a graph since we're going to be graphing, which is option 2, or we could select and hit our navigation key. We'll go ahead and type in the equation f1 of x equals x squared. We can do that two ways. We could just type the variable x and then use the special square key, or we could use the exponential operator upper half. So by hitting enter, we see the graph of f1 of x equals x squared, and our domain, as we see, is going from -10 to 10. Our range is going from a -6.7 to 6.67. And if we go to the menu command, we can zoom in if we so desire. So if I go up to, if I cursor it up to the zoom menu and then click the right navigation key, we can go to various different zoom modes. We could do zoom fit if our graph wasn't showing completely on the screen. We can do zoom decimal, which is useful for tracing. Let's go ahead and select zoom decimal. And then we'll go back to the menu, and then if you'll notice, option 5 is trace. So we'll go ahead and graph trace. So I'll click the center navigation key. And so as we navigate to the right, we're tracing the various values of x as x is being incremented in tenths in this particular zoom mode, which is sort of handy. And then if we click the left navigation key, we can go back and we could actually get on the other side of the curve. Notice we have the exact point 1, 1. And as we cursor to the left, we have the point -1, 1, and so on. Now we'll graph the ellipse, which is another conic section. And the equation we'll use is x squared over 4 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. The center of this ellipse will be at the origin. But in order to graph it, since it's not a function, we'll actually find the equation for the upper half and the lower half. And here we see the equation plus or minus 3/2 times the square root of 4 minus x squared. So solving for y, we see the upper half is a positive 3/2 times the square root of 4 minus x squared, and y will be negative when it's equal to a minus 3/2 times the square root of 4 minus x squared, thus giving us the curve underneath the x-axis. So we're back at the home menu. We're going to create another document. So we're going to select option 1 for new document, and we'll say no for saving the unsaved document. Hit enter, and then we'll go to option 2, add graphs, and we'll initially type in the upper half of our ellipse. So we'll type in 3 divided by 2, and then it'll automatically be multiplied times second square root. We get the square root sign by Control x squared key. And then 4 minus x squared, so we'll type in 4 minus x, and we'll use the exponential operator 2, and then tab gets us back down. Then we'll hit enter, and we now have the upper half of our ellipse. So in order to graph the lower half, we'll hit our tab key, which brings us down to f2 of x, and so we'll go ahead and type in the lower half, which is minus 3 divided by 2 times the square root, so again that's control x squared, which gives you the square root sign, and then 4 minus x squared, so 4 minus x to the power of 2. Tab brings us down to the normal level, and then enter, and it then graphs our lower half. Notice our domain is from minus 10 to 10, our range is from minus 6.67 to 6.67, and we could zoom in if we wanted to. So if we go to the menu command and we select the window zoom, which is option 4, and then zoom in, which is option 3, it's asking us for the center, so we'll go ahead and cursor up the center of our zoom, which we'll go ahead and use as the center of our ellipse, and then we'll hit enter, and there we have we're hitting the navigation center key, and then we have our ellipse zoomed in, and you can see when it zoomed in, it changed our domain from minus 5.31 to 4.69, and our range got changed from a minus 3.46 to 3, it looks like 3.2. In graphing the hyperbola, we will graph it in two parts. Since it's not a function, we will graph the upper half initially, which would be a positive 3/2 times the square root of x squared minus 4, and then we'll graph the lower half, which would be negation 3/2 times the square root of x squared minus 4. So now we'll graph the hyperbola. We'll go into the dock menu and then choose option 4, which is insert, and then a page option 2. We'll add graph option 2, then we'll type in the equation for the upper half of our hyperbola, which is 3 divided by 2 times the square root, so control x squared, of x squared minus 4. So we have x to the power of 2 minus 4. And notice I didn't hit tab, so we're actually still in the exponent. So if I hit the delete key to delete the minus 4 off the exponent and then hit tab, then if we type in minus 4, it goes in the proper line. So then we hit enter and we see the upper half of our hyperbola. Then if we click the tab key, we can type in F5, since we have F4 graphed. So if we type in F5 as the lower half, that would be negate 3 divided by 2 times the square root, so control x squared, of x squared minus 4, so x to the power of 2, tab, minus 4, enter. So there we have them both graphed on the same graph, on actually the second page. And we can go back and examine our first page by typing tab left navigation key, or sorry, control left navigation key, and there we see the graph of our ellipse.